Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Backseat Driver podcast. Now, this is episode number 2, and today we'll be talking about sort of what's gone on between the Bahrain and Saudi Grand Prix, sort of Mercedes, Ferrari, a little bit of chat about that, and then just preview the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix itself. So, yeah, let's get into it. Um, actually, I think the first point to start probably is talk about Lance Stroll. He released a video after Bahrain showing his recovery after his biking accident. Um, I think the one word to describe it is wow, because I think Lance he has his haters, and I think that you can understand that he doesn't have any pressure on him. His seat is guaranteed basically because of who his father is, and you can doubt his ability, and he's shown on occasion in the past, in the wet mostly, that he does have ability. But, I think that video really showed his dedication because, end of the day, he doesn't need to get into that car again as quickly as he did. He doesn't need to recover in the same way he did because he doesn't have the pressure. It's not like he's going to lose his seat if he doesn't perform. So that just showed a lot of dedication, and I had a lot of respect for the fact that he tried so hard to get back in the car. And it makes his performance even more impressive, getting, P6 ahead of Russell. It's very impressive. And yeah, my respect for him has definitely increased since seeing that video. And I've got to say, clearly he was in a bad state when he was driving the car. And the fact that he wasn't that far off Fernando in the race, and even in qualifying of about half a second, is really impressive. And I don't think that can be ignored. I think that's very admirable. I think obviously, there's a whole thing of, well, is it safe for him to drive? Was it a good idea? I mean, perhaps not in terms of, I think obviously for most people you shouldn't do something like that. But I mean, there's no, yeah, it's just a lot of respect for that. Like, as an athlete, he's not the average human being. He is an athlete at the end of the day. So it's not the same. But yeah. I guess another piece of news in sort of the intervening time was the London Grand Prix. There have been rumours around the sort of Canary Wharf area of having a London Grand Prix. Now, if I'm being honest, I think that's terrible. I don't know what they're thinking. I have no idea because it's you don't need it. What's the point? We don't want another street track that's just sort of there. It's so pointless, and I don't think it would be that good. We have Silverstone. We don't need another Grand Prix in England. Like, England's not a big place, you know. So we just don't need another Grand Prix here. Silverstone is fantastic as a track. I think it's generally a fantastic track. I think it's probably one of my favorites, although British bias, whatever. But yeah, I think there's no need. And I really hope we don't have that, because it may have just been a slow news day, because it seems to come out every couple of years like, oh, look, the London Grand Prix is going to happen. I mean, it never does. And I'm hoping it doesn't, because there's just no need. There really isn't a need, especially with another narrow street circuit where no one's going to be able to overtake in these massive and heavy cars. Just no point. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I've seen, what else? There were rumors of, just more Grand Prix sort of in Europe and stuff. And I'm like, go to Africa. We need an African race, please. Oh my God, we need a few African races. We need a couple, maybe one or two more South American races. To claim you're a world championship, you should probably go to everywhere in the world and not just, Europe, basically. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying it's a European-based sport. I'm not saying fly everyone everywhere. I mean, that's obviously not good for carbon footprint. But I'm just saying, if you want to be considered a world championship, make some races in everywhere you can. I mean, I've got with Brazil and Mexico. Technically, I mean, Mexico's not really South America, so it doesn't count. But Brazil for South America. But I mean, there's surely other opportunities: Argentina, Chile, somewhere. Anyway, that's just another weird thing that's gone on in the meantime. Aside from that, let's talk about the actual sort of F1 related, like team related news. Mercedes. Now, basically a lot of the chat between the two sort of races, Bahrain and Saudi, have been about Mercedes, because they've been really it's after the race they were Toto was particularly like, yeah, this we need radical changes to move forward. It was very odd because it was like one of those things where it just kind of felt it felt very odd for them to immediately be like, no, this is terrible. We've made a mistake. Like one race in, and especially on Bahrain, which is an outlier in terms of like tire deg and sort of the circuit characteristics. It's very much not, it's not like all the other tracks. All the other tracks don't have the same tire abrasion, which causes such high tire wear. So I don't know where that but it seemed a very sort of not knee jerk, but very over the top, not over the top, extreme reaction to one bad race. I mean, that's, fair. I mean, if you're worried already, then that's not a good sign, but it was very odd. I think as well, you know, the fact that Lewis said that Mercedes didn't listen to him on the car. He's since said, oh, there was a poor choice of words. Maybe it was, but he's saying, oh, Mercedes didn't listen to me. I know what a car needs and I know what a car doesn't need. And, they didn't really listen to me. I'm like, yeah, it's all very weird. It's also like, the ultimatum on Mike Elliott, apparently the technical director, and this meeting they had to work out their steps forward and stuff. And it seems all very sort of extreme and over the top for a one bad race. I'm not saying, Red Bull are clearly very fast and Mercedes want to be where Red Bull are. So, maybe it's obviously a knee jerk reaction, I guess, but it's a bit weird that it just feels so like, for after one race to be like, no, this is a disaster is wow. It just feels a bit weird. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I've seen a lot of criticism of Lewis. I think for publicly saying their team didn't listen to him, publicly criticizing his team, and I think I don't know. I think that it's not really. It's fair to say he shouldn't say it in public. I agree. He probably wasn't very helpful to say it in public. So I see that point, but I also think, he last year we saw he led the team, he drove them forward, he was very positive, and he just kept pushing them. And I think, he came across very well last year in terms of like as a leader. And I think obviously after all of that, if he did give them advice, say like, listen, we can't, the car needs to be like, give them, obviously the engineers are gonna, they have to translate what he said into actual performance. And clearly they didn't listen to him as much as they should have. Perhaps if he's telling them this car is lacking this or needs a little less of that, So, and engineers are stubborn. I think that's fairly fair to say. Engineers are probably fairly stubborn people. So I feel like that's probably why that's why probably they didn't listen to him as much as they maybe should have. And it's just a bit, I don't know, I understand why he's so frustrated. I understand why he said it, especially because other drivers criticize their team. I mean, we've seen, on track or off track drivers criticize their team. I mean, Lewis does it on track for sure. But I don't know, it just feels like a very disproportionate level of flack that Lewis is getting. I mean, yeah. It just feels very, like, it is very odd to me that he's getting way more flack than any other driver. If Max criticized his team, no one would be giving him this, So, I don't know. It just feels a bit odd that he's getting this much stick for it. I don't think he needed to say it or should have said it really, but you can forgive someone for being frustrated and annoyed and whatever and feeling the way he feels. So he is a 7-time world champion. He wants to win again. So I don't see why he wouldn't be frustrated. These are the last years of his career, probably last maybe 3-4 years of his career. He's going to start eventually starting to not. He's going to eventually start losing something, and I think it's not fair to, it's not fair on him to, I think it's not fair on him to, it's not fair of us to criticize him too harshly when he's frustrated, and you can kind of understand his frustration. Anyway, so, another thing they did was a bit odd. Mercedes' fan message to fans, like an open letter to the fans. Again, it's like they're in crisis, but it's been one race. It's very strange. It seems like, they're like, oh, we're going to improve, we're going to push forward, we need you guys, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, understandable that you're, trying to galvanize your fans and stuff. But it's very odd that is after one race having to say this. It feels like very, I mean, they say in the letter, we're not making any knee jerk or panicky reaction. It does feel a bit knee jerky and a bit panicky, but anyway. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think the main reason, as far as I can tell, they've done that is, I think the final bit of it, where they basically talk about criticism and how it should be leveled on social media. They say, there's a right way to criticize, and I think that's probably why they wrote the letter. I think that's. I mean, I think it was a lot of waffle before that to basically and saying, oh, we're going to improve, we're going to move forward, we've got you guys, we're going to be fine, But I think that was really the crux of it. Is like, we've been getting a lot of shit on social media, and you guys have been criticizing everyone and a lot of different people, and I don't think that you should be doing that. Basically, it's just saying that there's a right way to do it, and don't just abuse people. Is basically their point of, yes, things aren't great, but we're going to try and get better, and you shouldn't abuse someone for it. I think that's what they're trying to get at, but it comes across as came across as very strange. Like, it wasn't very well thought out. If they wanted to call out I guess calling out fans directly won't always work, because the type of fan that's going to criticize them openly and yell at them, if you're a Lewis supporter and you're very frustrated, you're going to get really angry at Mercedes, or, if you're a Max supporter and you just hate Mercedes, or if you're any other team supporter and you hate Mercedes, or because they used to dominate or whatever, like any other team, anything like that, then, and if you're going to abuse people on social media, then calling you out directly is just going to galvanize you and make you even more angry. Whereas something like that might help, I don't know, appease help sort of, I guess it was an attempt to sort of reason with them, I guess, a little bit, as opposed to just calling them out directly, because it's slightly less extreme approach, but at the same time, it comes off as in a different kind of way as extreme, like an extreme reaction to a one bad race kind of thing. Yeah. And I think I saw today a little something that they've had a meeting on the Tuesday after Bahrain, and they sort of said they found a way forward and stuff. So, maybe Mercedes will improve, and they will have I think they will probably have a radical change of concept. I really don't. Everyone talks about their zero pod idea. I don't know if that's really the crux of it. I think they do have drag issues, but I think that's clearly not the problem. They're just not producing enough downforce. I don't think that's really. So I don't think the drag is the main issue. Although, they need to be more. I think, their car isn't as efficient as like Ferrari or Red Bull. In terms of getting high amounts of downforce for low amounts of drag, basically. But yeah. Another thing I mean, there was this huge bit of speculation on Lewis's future, and he's basically said, like, I'm not moving, which is fair. Although I think I think Lewis is not the type of guy to move out of frustration. I mean, 2012, he didn't leave McLaren because they were letting him down, but he didn't. It took a few seasons of that for him to really leave, like 4 years of no championships for him to leave. And 2012 was for 2012 was one of those where I think it was even worse because of the fact that he could have been in the championship fight, but wasn't, because McLaren let him down. Whereas, like, operationally, not with the car. Whereas Mercedes, it's a project of like, okay, we need to develop the car. The car's the problem, not necessarily the fact that they're not getting things right, if you know what I mean. If you get what I mean. So yeah, but yeah. So we'll see what happens with Mercedes, but I mean, they brought some. We'll go into it later, but they brought some upgrades, so we'll see them if they move forward. Okay. Next, I think we need to talk about something that actually came out just on the Friday of the Saudi Grand Prix, the morning. Lewis and Angela Cullen, his sort of, I don't know, physio. I don't know I can't remember exactly what her role is, but basically, like, the person that's basically been with him for the last 7 years or so, and is basically, they parted ways, and it's amicable. It's a case of she's gone on to different things, and I think it was time for her to move on. But I think, it's clear I mean, I think it's going to be very odd, because I think Lewis and Angela were a great pairing, and I think they had a great friendship, and I think, I can't lie, Angela's been a big part of Lewis's life. I feel like it's a big step, and I think it's kind of crazy, actually. It's a very odd thing, because it's like weird, because you see them together all the time. Like after the race, she's always there handling his stuff, and after qualifying, in the garage, he's always there. They clearly have a really great relationship, and I think Lewis has talked about how much Angela means to him, and and how much she's helped him, and I think it's gonna be like, I don't know how it will affect him. I have a feeling I think Lewis will be fine, but I think it's just interesting to see how that whether he gets I don't know if he's gonna be able to find someone who has that same thing with him than Angela. Yeah, it's very odd. And, respect to Lewis, Lewis and Angela for both agreeing to, for Angela for taking the step to move on, and like Lewis for basically being like, yeah, that's okay, it's fine, please do it, and doing so amicably. I think they clearly want the best for each other. I think that's respectable. And yeah, hopefully Angela, successful in the future, and hopefully Lewis isn't too affected by it, because if he has a bad, because I think Lewis, he at least used to. I mean, he did 2011 when he had his worst season in F1, I think, by far. Um, that was a terrible season for him, and it was because his personal life was a complete mess. His relationship with his family, he broke up with his partner, everything like that. I think sort of went wrong for him that year. It was just a terrible year for his personal life, and I think he's a lot stronger now mentally. So hopefully he won't be as affected. But it'll be interesting to see what happens from here with that. With that. But yeah, no. Yeah, that's just something I just got announced, and yeah, it's a big change for Lewis. There's been little murmurings at Ferrari. I think we've seen Fred Vasseur's been trying to make some changes, but it's been a fairly slow transition. But now I think it's getting a bit more extreme. Not more extreme. I think we've been seeing like the head of car concept, I think, is leaving, I think, at the end of 2023 for McLaren, perhaps. I think, if I'm not wrong, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. We've been seeing, I think, even Lauren Meckies, who's the racing director, wants to leave. I mean, I think there's a lot of changes. Fred Vasseur is trying to make a lot of changes because clearly I think he's come in from the outside and seen some issues, and he's just like, okay, we need to sort these out. Which, I think is the right thing to do. I think clearly if there are deep-rooted issues in Ferrari, I think, relating to, I think there's just I think it comes from, in part, that, we're Ferrari, we are Ferrari, we have the right to be winning, whereas I don't think, any team has the right to be winning. I think teams belong in places, but I don't think they have the right to be there, take McLaren. I think they belong at the front, but they don't have the right to be at the front. They haven't earned that right again since they stopped being at the front. Alpine is a great example of a team that I think believes they have the right to be at the front, but in my opinion does not belong at the front. Because they keep talking the talk and keep not walking the walk. I have my problems with Alpine. I'll be honest. I have my problems with Alpine. But yeah, no. Apparently, there's some tension with the CEO of Ferrari. Can't remember his name, Vigna or something like that. I can't remember his name exactly. I think he's probably not very happy with all the changes, etc. So it's a bit of a tension. It's going to be interesting to see how this sort of reshuffle plays out, and yeah, hopefully, Ferrari can make some positive steps, because it's not been a great start for them, if we're being honest. Yeah, we'll talk about some of the stuff that's going to happen in Saudi as well. So yeah, you know what better time to move on to that then? Okay, well, going to Saudi Arabia, the Jeddah Corniche circuit, I believe it's called. Well, I mean, from Bahrain to here, it's a lot lower tire deg. The track is not as abrasive. Bahrain's definitely an outlier in that aspect, so it will suit certain teams more than others. I'll talk about the teams in a sec, but it's a very high speed track. They have made some changes to turns 22 and 23, if I'm not much mistaken, where they've tightened it a bit to make it a little bit slower. And yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating to see, because again, I think Saudi's been decent races the last couple of years. Obviously 2021 with the context of the championship battle and the drama between Lewis and Max, like Jesus Christ. Honestly, I remember watching it. I was on the train down from Edinburgh at the time, I think, when it was going on. And I remember just like literally like squealing a little bit and like grabbing onto my mate next to me. And he was like, Christ, are you okay? And I was like, not really. And then 2022 with that DRS chicken between Max and Charles. I've seen people say that Jeddah was one of the best races last year? Not sure. It might be, but I'm not sure. I mean, they weren't all. I mean, a lot of the races weren't brilliant last year, so potentially, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and then sort of, and yeah, I guess some other news coming in, sort of Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren bringing up. All the teams have some upgrade of some sorts, but I think the main ones that people have talked about is Mercedes, Ferrari, and McLaren, because Mercedes is sort of, they're sort of trying to. I mean, guess it's small little things just to move them sort of towards the front. It's very small things. I don't think they're going to make a huge difference. They're just going to point them in the right direction, I guess, for all of them. I think McLaren's hoping to get their big upgrade in Baku, and Mercedes in Imola. So I think, there's not much to say there. I think that's just hopefully move them forward a bit, because I think they're all a bit disappointed with the way they are at the minute. And I think, Verstappen had a stomach bug. He's back on track now. I saw a brilliant meme on Twitter from Tommy Bellingham, who was he he was just like, the Thor meme of like, you can't defeat me, I know, but he kind of was like, Verstappen, you can't defeat me. The rest of the grid, I know, but he can. And it's just a stomach bug emerging. I was also like a tummy ache, and I don't know, it made me laugh. Yeah, it's good. But yeah, no, I don't think it'll make any difference. Verstappen's a hardy boy. He'll be fine. He's been through plenty of trauma in the past with his dad, so don't think a little stomach bug's going to get him down too much. Oh, I hate Max Verstappen's dad, by the way. Cannot stand him. He should not be on the track. He should be in jail. Oh my God. Anyway. Yeah. I feel like I can make an entire video on why I despise Max Verstappen's dad. Probably wouldn't be the longest video I've ever made, but it would be, I'd be a lot of very angry swearing, because he's oh God. Oh man. Anyway, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So let's just go through the teams, I think, now. Okay, let's start at the back, I guess, from reverse championship order from last year. Williams. They were good in Bahrain. They were. I guess I said this on the post race chat. We in episode 1 of Backseat Driver. They were good. So I think it's a high speed circuit. Williams seem to be very sort of low drag as their philosophy. So maybe that will suit them. Maybe they can get some more points. Maybe Logie Sarge, oh, that's a cringe name, can score some points. And because he made a great case for himself in Bahrain. His first lap was brilliant. He came 12th. He wasn't that far off Alex. It's got to be said, out of all the rookies, he showed the most why he belongs on that F1 grid. And that was after he was probably expected to be like a new Latifi, which I never expected him to be honest. I never thought he would be, because I've seen his junior career, I've seen the context of it, and I think it's brilliant. I think he's really good. I think, it's if Oscar's like George Russell, then the equivalent rookie of George Russell, then I think Logan Sargent's like Lando Norris, the equivalent rookie of Lando Norris. And I think Nick de Vries is kind of like Alex Albon. Bit of a weird one. I think Nick and Alex are fairly different, but because Nick has so much more experience. But it's a bit of an odd comparison. But I think, I think Logan has a lot of potential. I think that's really good. And I think Alex will just continue to perform. And I think there's chance of good points for Williams, especially if, with safety cars and crashes. You never know. There's a good chance. Jeddah's a crazy circuit. You really don't know. So yeah. Williams looking all right, I think. I'm hoping that, they do well. It's always good to see Williams do well. AlphaTauri. Yikes, man. They're bad. Like, they're just not very good. I don't know. It's just, they've gone from 2021 sometimes being the best of the rest, 2021 was Mercedes and Red Bull top 2, and then best of the rest. AlphaTauri were challenging. They didn't get 5th because Yuki let them down, I think, in that year, because it was his rookie season and he just didn't perform. But yeah, they really could have gotten, got 5th easily that year. They probably weren't quick enough for 3rd, but they were at times like one up there with Mercedes and Ferrari, at least in quali pace. So in 2 years to now be where they are in terms of like, they're basically at the back. They're slow. They're really slow. They're not quick at all. They're really not quick. Yeah, it's a bit worrying actually, just how they've fallen backwards. And yeah. I mean, I've seen rumors of them. I mean, friends to us have said they're not going to be sold. I think they might be sold, but I don't know who to. Maybe Porsche. Um, but yeah, no, yeah, it's just an odd thing for them. At the minute, it's just it feels fairly inevitable that they'll be sold, but I don't know what's going on. And yeah, they're just going backwards. Yeah, they just don't look good. And Nick DeFries. I mean, Yuki did a good job last race. Nick, not a good job. He did an okay job. I think he's been doing okay. He's performed decently so far. I think this year. I think he's done what he needed to do. He's been beating Nick, so I think that's really what he needs to do. Nick didn't have the best time. He qualified P19 after Gasly lost his time, but he wasn't quick. And he did get P14 in the race, and he did get shafted by strategy. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, it was very. He was, I said that he'd be the worst rookie, I think, last race, and I think I was right. Yeah, so not not the not the best, not the best looking for AlphaTauri at the minute. Yeah, it is what it is. Haas. Again, I don't know what to say. They look in qualifying, they were quick in Bahrain, and I think they'll be quick again. Hulkenberg got into Q3. I think, clearly there's some pace in the car. In race pace, they just fell back though, and I think, to be fair, with Hulkenberg, he did have damage, which really affected him and cost him a lot of time. He ended up being very slow, so I think that's probably why he was so screwed in the race. So I think maybe let's not judge that too harshly. But I think that I don't know. It's a bit of an odd one because I think I think the car and quali is probably going to be better than the race again, and I think I can see Hulk getting to Q3 again. But I don't know if they'll. I think they'll probably slip back. I don't see that them moving forward too much, But yeah, no, definitely not as strong a start as last season when they came fifth in Bahrain, obviously. But yeah, no, I think I don't know. I feel like AlphaTauri and Haas aren't brilliant, at least in the race. I mean, AlphaTauri was a lot better in the race, to be fair, but Haas wasn't brilliant in the race last time, so I don't really know. I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it was just like a one-off Bahrain disaster for them. Like maybe their tyre deck was really bad, and that's why. And this race will be better because there's lower tyre deck. But yeah, I guess we'll find out. Yeah, and then we move on to Alfa Romeo. No, Aston Martin. Yeah, they'll be quick. I mean, there's no question. They're moving. They're in the top four. I think. I think last race was so good for them because of the fact they had no tire. They literally were amazing on their tires. I think that really helped them. Like really, really helped them. So, in that respect, I think this race won't be as suit them as much because I think the other teams will have a better time. So I think in terms of this race, I mean, they'll probably still do very well, don't get me wrong, but I think this race won't suit them quite as much as Bahrain did in terms because of the tyre wear and race pace, but they should still be up there. And I think it's it's relatively high downforce in terms of like it's obviously low, fast circuit, but in terms of like the you need good amounts of downforce. And I think the car generates a very good amount of downforce, so I think they should be quick here. But I don't know if they'll quite be as fast as they were last weekend relative to the other teams. But yeah, no, Alonso looking great. I mean, there's nothing to really say. He's just been brilliant last race. And Stroll, hopefully he'll be even more mended now, so he'll be closer to Alonso than he was last race and continue to perform. Because I think on straight, like I think Bahrain, it was a little bit easier for him to have a broken hand, whereas this track, yikes, to have a broken hand on this track is terrifying, I think. So hopefully he's a lot better now in the 2 weeks. So hopefully he'll be closer to Alonso and less hand achy, I guess. Alfa Romeo. Bottas best of the rest last race. Unspoken, sort of a bit of a underappreciated hero last race. Very good. I was very impressed by Bottas. I mean, he's shown plenty of times he has ability, so it's not really it shouldn't really be a surprise. But it always is somehow. Yeah, so I guess I think they'll have a decent race again. I think they could score points again. I can see that happening. Again, it's one of those weird things where like I can't say, oh, Williams, Alpha, oh, all of them will score points. But I can see definite points on the cards. If the things go their way, I think they won't be the quickest team. But I think I can see points on the horizon for them. I have faith in. I mean, Bottas has clearly shown that he still has a decent amount of talent in him. I think Joe as well is a good driver, and I think he will continue to show his worth. I think he's definitely earned that second seat, and I think he'll continue to perform. Although I do think that Porsche is waiting in the wings, so there's a bit of pressure on him, perhaps maybe more than Bottas. I don't know. Yeah, so we'll see on that. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I do like Alfa Romeo. They're a solid team, and I think I've had a soft spot for them for because I feel like Sauber was always a plucky underdog, and 2012 back in the day they nearly won races. They nearly won a race and they got a couple podiums. So it's it'll be good to see them progress, I guess. And with the Audi money coming in maybe next year, it'll be good. But yeah, anyway, yeah, I think decent performance on the cards, but I'm not expecting anything special. I think either high end of the bottom half or scraping into the top 10, I think. Whether Bottas or Zhou gets points, I think that depends. I think it could go either way. I mean, I'd hope maybe Zhou can get a point, but I think Bottas is more likely of the two. Yeah. Okay, then we've got McLaren. Last race was a stinker. Let's be honest. They were the worst team by a country mile last race. Oscar's car fell up. I mean, both their cars fell apart, basically. I mean, Oscar had a issue and his steering, he basically had like, he got blue screened of death, didn't he? And Lando just had hydraulic, the pneumatic system needed pumping. So he had like 6 stops. He had pit stop practice basically the whole race for McLaren. And God, that was bad. That was really bad. It was such a bad race. I can't imagine them doing worse this time, though. So that's encouraging. They can't do worse, surely. So, yeah, hopefully they can make some inroads on the top tier towards the midfield. I think that minor upgrades will probably give them a little bit. So I'm hoping they can sort themselves out. I hope the minor upgrades sort of fix their sort of disintegration issues they've been having. And this has been an issue for McLaren for ages. They've always had reliability concerns, etc. Especially this was an issue, a while ago, and it seemed to have sort of been calmed down. They seem to be a bit more reliable, a bit better with it. Now it's like back to that again. And I don't think Oscar got to show what he can do. I don't think Lando got to show what he can do. So there might be pace there. You never know. I don't know. I don't have much hope. I think we're really going to have to wait till Baku. Because like Daniel said, they need to start the season with a car they're going to bring in Baku. So clearly it's like almost like a B-spec car. And so I think maybe, I think the first 3 races we just have to just write them off, I think. I think there won't be I think AlphaTauri will be slow. I think Haas might even be slower. I don't see them particularly... I just don't see them particularly doing anything special this race, but I think they just be another race of anonymity, I guess, for them, which is a shame. Alpine. Yeah, last weekend was a bit of a weird one because in qualifying, they just didn't look very good. For Gasly got last, which is unlucky to be fair, and Ocon got P9, and then in the race they kind of swapped positions. So Gasly got P9 and Ocon got he DNF'd. Yeah, yes, he did DNF, right? Oh no, wait. Well, he got a million penalties. Basically, he got a million penalties, which is funny. I mean, it's very harsh. His penalties were very harsh, admittedly. He got a penalty for speeding by 0.1 of a kilometer an hour. He got a penalty for not serving his pit stop, which is the team's problem. And he got a penalty for not being in his grid box, which is definitely his fault because that's a bit embarrassing. As an F1 driver, you should probably know how to get into your pit box. Yeah. So not pit box, grid box. Yeah, a bit embarrassing that. But anyway, it is what it is. I can see them doing better this weekend. I mean, clearly there's pace in the car. Gaz got up to P9. I don't know. I just don't have that much faith in Alpine. I just don't have much faith. And, I just think, I don't know. I can see them, because the midfield's tight. So they could go either way. I think, I can see them maybe getting, points, but I don't know. I don't really favour them to get points for some reason. Yeah, I don't think Alpine will get points. No. I'm not sure if Alpine will get points. They looked decent in the last race and they got good points, but I just think that clearly, the lack of they didn't show much in winter testing, and I think that wasn't sandbagging. That was just them not showing anything. And I think they were talking about they looked very confident. I just don't think they've produced a car that's good enough to fight for, be quicker than Mercedes or quicker than Aston Martin. So, yeah, I'm not sure if they score points, but because I think there's other contenders. So, a track like Jeddah could go either way, though. So, there you go. Yeah. Ocon, I'm sure, will do better as well this weekend. I don't think he'll get a million penalties. Gasly, I don't think will get, I think Gasly will do fine this best with it in qualifying at least than in Bahrain, because I think Bahrain was just a very first race. You can forgive him a little bit. Sorry. Next team, Mercedes. I cannot see them being anywhere but I can't see them being. I don't see Mercedes being quicker than Aston Martin. I don't see them being quicker this weekend. I can see them being better overall, because of the fact that there's less tyre wear, and I think they don't produce as much downforce, which means they have slightly higher tyre wear due to on abrasive circuits like Bahrain. But yeah, I just don't see them being any quicker than Aston Martin. So I'm going to say they'll do fine, but it'll be good. I think Lewis might be able to outscore Stroll, maybe Russell too. But yeah, it's just they're not looking very, very quick overall. Hopefully, maybe the upgrades will help them a bit. But yeah, I have my doubts whether Mercedes will be quicker than Aston Martin. Yeah. Lewis and George, not much to say. Lewis was good in the last race. Clearly, he couldn't overtake Sainz, even though I think he could have if. But I think he probably could have. But I think being caught behind the cars for so long, I think his tires got a bit destroyed, and I think I just couldn't do it in the end. George, he didn't have. You could say, he didn't. After he wasn't that far off Lewis in the last race. Yeah, but I think George didn't spend as much time sort of battling as Lewis. So I don't know. I don't really feel like the fact he was behind Stroll as well is not a good sign for Mercedes. Yeah, George will do fine. He'll do fine. And I don't know if he'll beat Lewis. I mean, Lewis last year had a stinker here, but that was because he had very dodgy setup. So, not sure how it'll be this year. But it'll be interesting to see. I think George could outqualify Lewis. That's fine, but I think in the race, Lewis will have him. Ferrari. Yeah. Charles Leclerc is taking a grid penalty, a 10-place grid penalty in race 2 out of 23, which means by the end of the season, at this rate, he'll have a penalty. He'll have approximately 100 places worth of 110, 120 places worth of grid penalties. How have Ferrari done this? How have they already killed their season? One race in, and he's already taking a grid penalty? What does he do? What are they doing? Ferrari, being a Ferrari fan must genuinely be a form of masochism at this point. You're causing yourself pain by sticking with them. Just stop it. Get some help. Get therapy. Because, oh my God, Ferrari, what are they doing? An engine penalty in the second race. I know, I saw Yuki Tsunoda had that in 2021 or something, or 2022, but this is Ferrari. This is a team. They're I can't believe the state that they're in, man. It's the car's quick, and I think they'll be quicker this weekend. I think they'll be closer to Red Bull, but oh God, with Charles having to start further back, it's just harming them. Charles shouldn't be. If Charles was at the front, it would be more of a battle. But because I know I love Carlos, but I don't think he has the pace to beat Max, or even and maybe he can beat. He probably can beat Checo, but Red Bull's just quicker, so he needs to be a decent amount quicker than Checo. And I don't know if he's that. He's not like tenths and tenths. He's not like Max clear of Checo versus. I mean, Yeah, it's a disaster. I just hmm. Listen, I'm sure that they may improve races going forward, but in the second race to already have a grid penalty is embarrassing. It actually just is embarrassing. I feel embarrassed. I'm getting second hand embarrassment for Ferrari fans. I don't know what to say. It is bad. Anyway, they'll be fine. They'll be quick. It's just I don't know where Charles will finish though. I don't think he'll be finishing on the podium. I don't think he'll be finishing top five with the. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I feel sad for Ferrari fans because yeah, this is a rough situation. I'm sure I'm sure it's not as bad as people are saying, but it's not a good start, is it? It's just not. Anyway, clearly reliability is still a problem. Oh my god, sorry, I just can't. I can't get over it. Anyway, and Red Bull. I mean, there's not much to say. Verstappen's imperious. Perez is, doing a great job. I think they'll win this by about 40 years. Yes, I think it'll be closer, but at the same time, I just don't. At the same time, I'm just there like, oh, it'll be closer, but that may be just me hoping. Like, I just don't know. I think that they'll win quite easily. I think Max will waltz away. I think, George said they'll win every race this year, and I genuinely think that's fairly possible. The advantage will wane throughout the season because of the cost cap penalty, but yeah, I think it's a fairly inevitable thing that Red Bull will win this race, and it's a shame, because the sport's more exciting when we have a battle at the front. Always is. I mean, you can appreciate the midfield and the upper midfield and the front and the sort of the bits behind the first, second place, but you'd rather have a battle for the front, wouldn't you? That's what makes F1 so exciting. It's 2021. So good because of that. So yeah, it's a shame that we're not going to get a battle at the front. But you know what? Fair play. Max is an unbelievable driver in an unbelievable car doing unbelievable things. What can you say? Um, yeah. So I think that covers all the teams. So let's talk about the pole, podium, and then talk about best and worst drivers and teams, basically. So, pole, Max Verstappen, fairly easy, couple of tenths. I think Perez will get P2. Perez. I think Charles could potentially outqualify Perez, maybe, but I think that with a 10 place, it doesn't matter. So, Perez, then Carlos, I think, on the grid. Podium, I think Verstappen, Perez, and Alonso. I think Alonso, Aston Martin have great race pace. I think they'll continue to show, although the pace won't be that much better than Ferrari, but I think they'll have enough. And I think Aston Martin looking pretty good. So Verstappen, Perez, Alonso, same podium as Bahrain, which could be a theme of this year. You never know. Yeah, I don't think I need to explain that really too much. Best driver. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Alonso again. I think he'll be great. I think he'll show his class again. No questioning that. I think Alonso has to be the guy for the best driver. Yeah, I don't see any other driver showing anything more than what Alonso can. I think because Verstappen, in terms of expectation, you expect him to do well. So best driver. I mean, he may be imperious, but at the same time, it's hard to give him best driver when you don't really he's in a great car. So it's hard to give him best driver when he'll be his teammate. It's fairly inevitable. So it's like, okay, we can give him best driver, but if Alonso provides excitement and stuff, you can't not give him best driver. Anyway, sidetrack. Worst driver. I'm gonna go with I'd have to go with DeFreeze again. I went last week. I went for DeFreeze. I don't think that AlphaTauri is quick, and I don't. Maybe now that I know that's not that quick, I shouldn't expect him to do very well. But I don't know. I just think that he's. Yeah, with the AlphaTauri being slow, and with Yuki, I think going to be able to perform him. I just see him having a bit of a shocker. I don't know if he's ever raced on Jeddah as well, so that could play against him. I know he's not raced on Jeddah, yeah, so that could play against him a bit. Guess we'll find out, but yeah, not brilliant. And then best team, Red Bull, easy. I think they're gonna win fairly comfortably. Although I think again, I said I really hope they don't win so as comfortably as Bahrain because they seem to they turn themselves down in Bahrain, which is worrying. But turn the engines down, turn everything down, like sort of just chilled basically. So let's hope it's not like that. But yeah, I think Red Bull best team, worst team. I'm gonna go with McLaren. I don't see them improving. I think, AlphaTauri will maximize. They won't get points, but they'll maximize roughly what they can do. Whether that's 14th or 15th, whatever, they'll maximize that. Whereas I think McLaren will just keep botching stuff. I don't see them improving. Yeah, whatever was there to say? They're just not performing right now. And I think after Baku, maybe they'll move forward. But right now, sorry, McLaren, you're going to be the worst driver for me, worst team for me. Okay, well, I think that does it. Talked about everything I think I want to talk about. Yeah, F2 this weekend. That should be fun. Jeddah F2 is going to be chaos. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the weekend. Hopefully it'll be fun. I'm considering recording my live reactions to the race. A bit 50-50 though, because it's like I like to enjoy the race and not have to worry about paying up for the camera. I mean, I'm fairly animated anyway, but yeah, don't know. I guess something I have to think about for myself. But yeah, I mean, I obviously have a little Monday or after the probably Monday, I'll probably have a little do a little backseat driver episode just to talk about the race afterwards. So yeah, sounds good. Yeah, well, thank you guys very much for listening and for watching, and I will catch you in the next episode of Backseat Driver. Thank you. See you in the next video, and cheers.